Let me talk to you first about the issue of consent. This is a virtual jury trial, as you all know. We've talked about it at length in the past, but I'd like to put this on the record. I want to confirm that both sides consent to allowing this trial to move forward virtually on the Zoom platform. Counsel for the plaintiff, have you discussed this with your client?
Good morning, Your Honor. Yes, we have, and we would.
And is it your wish and your client's wish to proceed with the Zoom platform?
Yes, Your Honor.
Counsel for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you consulted with your client? And is your client is this acceptable to your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
So to be clear, and I guess to address any possible appellate issues concerning the conducting of this trial virtually through the Zoom platform, the notion of having a live trial instead of a virtual trial, you've all agreed to the virtual trial. Is that correct, counsel for the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
For the defense. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
So let's talk about a little bit how we're going to proceed with this. Okay. I'm going to preliminarily give some basic instructions, not as detailed. I think we had them instructed before in the main jury room. And after I give the instructions, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Reitman. And then I think the target time is about 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to give you like a 2-minute warning before we get to the 15 minutes. So I would ask if you would please try to remain. If any objections, I'm going to try to rule without sending the jury out. If there are any issues with any of the particular jurors, I'm going to ask our clerk and technical assistant, Mr. Garcia, to move the jurors into the waiting room. Okay? And I think you've had an opportunity to view my preliminary instructions. Any objection from the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
Any objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Is there anything else we need to address at this time before we proceed?
No, Your Honor. Not from the plaintiff.
Mr. Edelman, anything else?
No, Judge.
Okay, and I think, as I understand it, for purposes of voir dire, Mr. Reitman's going to handle for the plaintiff and Mr. Edelman's going to handle for the defense. Is that correct, counsel? Yes?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
good.
Your Honor.
All right, may I ask our clerk and technical support person please bring in the jury?
Right away, Your Honor. The jurors are back, Judge.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, first I want to introduce myself. I'm Judge Levinson. I'll be presiding over these proceedings. I want to apologize for the short break, but during the course of the trial and during the course of this jury selection, there may be occasions when I have to talk to the lawyers out of your presence. And when we do that, we send you to what's called a break room or a jury room. I want to emphasize, as I will shortly, you're not to discuss anything about the case among yourselves or with anyone else, even when you're in the break room, okay? All right, will you all please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will answer truthfully all questions asked of you as prospective jurors?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
I do.
All right. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to give you an idea about what you're here to do. This is a civil jury trial. A civil trial is different from a criminal case where a defendant is charged by the state prosecutor with committing a crime. The subject of a civil trial is a disagreement between people or companies where the claims of one or more of these parties have been brought to court to be resolved. It is called a trial of a lawsuit. Now, this case involves a motorcycle type accident in a sand pit, okay, where the plaintiff was involved in an accident in the sand pit. He claims that the owner of the sand pit was negligent, and the owner of the sand pit claims that, in fact, they were not negligent, that the plaintiff was negligent, and also that the plaintiff trespassed in that area. So that's the basic facts. I think the lawyers will allude to that somewhat during their voir dire. Let me talk to you a little bit about the participants in the trial. I'm the judge. You may hear people occasionally refer to me as the court. That's the formal name for my role. I'm like the umpire in a baseball game. I'm here to maintain the rules. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm here to make sure everything goes, and also want to ensure that things are done in a proper way. The parties, a party who files a lawsuit is called the plaintiff. A party that is sued is called the defendant. The attorneys have the job of representing their respective clients. That means they speak for their client here at the trial. They have taken oaths as attorneys to do their very best and to follow the rules of their profession. The attorneys for the plaintiff are Brent Reitman and Dan Harris. Mr. Reitman, would you please introduce yourself, your co-counsel, and also your client?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies of the jury. My name is Brent Reitman, and along with my co-counsel, Dan Harwin, we have the pleasure of representing Charles King, who goes by the name of Chip, so you'll hear us say his name that way.
Thank you, sir. All right. And for the defense, the attorneys for the defendants are Jeffrey Edelman and Angela Castronovo. Please, Mr. Edelman, would you please introduce yourself, your co-counsel, and your client?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's a pleasure to be in front of all of you, and I appreciate you being here. My name is Jeff Edelman, along with Angela Castronovo. It's our pleasure to represent Galaxy Gravel and our client, the president of Galaxy Gravel, Kurt Frazier.
Thank you, counsel. I also want to emphasize we also have a court clerk and technical assistance. I know you've met him earlier in preparation for the trial. It's Mr. Orlando Garcia. As this is a Zoom trial, should you have any technical issues, please contact him at 954-831-7000. And last but not least is the jury, which we will begin to select in a few minutes from among all of you. And your job will be to decide what the facts are and what the facts mean. You should be as neutral as possible throughout this trial. And in that said, a basic rule is that jurors must decide the case only on the evidence presented in the courtroom. You must not communicate with anyone, including friends and family members, about this case, the people and places involved, or your jury service. You must not disclose your thoughts about the case or ask for advice on how to decide the case. And most importantly, you're not to talk about the case among yourselves. Additionally, no Google searches, no investigation on your own. What happens in this courtroom, in this proceeding, stays in this courtroom. You're not to do any investigation. You need to rely on what's introduced in the courtroom. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about some issues that are particular to this Zoom format. First, please make sure that your device is connected to an AC outlet or the wall. Now, some of you have iPhone. I just hope that the iPhones or cell phones, I should say, are fully charged. To that extent, if you start running into any issues, if you could please connect your device to a charger, we'd appreciate that. Everybody understand that so far? Yes?
Yes.
Now, except for your computer, all devices, including cell phones, should be turned off. Turned off means that the phone is off and not on silent or vibrate. And also, please keep your mute button on unless you're told otherwise. So if you're asked a question by either of the counsel, of course, you want to turn your mute button off so that you can respond, but keep the mute button on. Now, as you are in your residence, please avoid distraction such as children, other family members, or pets. It is hopeful that you are in a quiet place. Please sit back away from the camera so that we can see you clearly on the screen. No virtual background should be used by any juror. And I see that you all have your natural background, so we appreciate that. Again, if you have any video or audio issues, if you can't see or you can't hear, please let us know or call Mr. Garcia again at 954-831-7000. If you have any questions, please raise your hand, like I do right here. Please raise your hand so we can see that you have a question. There may be a need to talk to the attorneys out of your presence. As I said earlier, Mr. Garcia will usher you out of the virtual courtroom into a jury room break room. When we are finished, you will be brought back to the courtroom. I also want to stress again that you can't use any other devices to get information about the case. And the last thing I want to do before we begin to select a jury is to explain to you how to select. Well, the selection process is going to work generally that the lawyers are going to question you, okay? Then they will, out of your presence, we will then go through the selection process and they will select you. They and their clients will select you. Let me emphasize, as the judge, I do not select you. At this point, I'm going to have the attorneys have the opportunity to address you, to get information about you. And at this juncture, because the plaintiff has the burden of proof in this case, I'm going to turn it over to plaintiff's attorney. Mr. Reitman, do you wish to address the jury at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
You may proceed.
May it please the court. Good morning, ladies of the jury. Can everyone hear me okay?
I cannot hear you.
No one can hear me. How about now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I've got to just stay closer to the
I
microphone.
can hear you.
Yes, I can.
Again, my name is Brent Reitman. Good morning to all of you. Together with Mr. Harwin, we represent the plaintiff in this case. And first, I want to go ahead and say thank you sincerely to all of you who showed up here today in a year where at every turn things seem to go worse every moment. All of you answered the call for your jury service, so we appreciate you being here. This particular part of the trial is voir dire, and it's unique in that it's the only time that we get to speak to each other and have a conversation. And the whole purpose of this is to find out who is going to be the best possible jurors for this case, and to find out who is fair and impartial. And the only way that we are able to do that, both myself and Mr. Edelman, is by asking questions. And I want to just assure everyone that we don't mean to offend you. We don't mean to pry into your personal lives. We're not seeking to find fault with anyone. We're just trying to find out if there's anything in anyone's background or because of their feelings or their personal experiences that there's a reason why this might not be the best particular case for you to be on, or whether you are perfectly suited to decide the case just based on the evidence. If I ask you a question that you believe calls for information that is personal in nature, that you don't want to share with 14 of your other new best friends, just let me know and we can accommodate you, okay? We don't want anyone to be uncomfortable. That being said, other than the things and personal feelings people might have, I also want to ask some questions about this particular format. And if there's, obviously this is a unique type of trial and unique issues amongst the parties. We want to find out if there's anything about the way this trial is being conducted that might be potentially problematic. So the first question I want to pose to everyone, and I'm going to go down the list and ask each of you, is whether or not anyone has any negative feelings about this particular case because we're not in a courtroom and this is being tried through Zoom. So let's start with Ms. Smith. Anything about the fact that this trial is on Zoom that you have any potential negative feelings about?
No, I don't.
Ms. Castaneda, how about you?
No, I don't.
Ms. Sanchez. Oh, we have you on mute. But it looked like you shook your head no.
No, I don't. Sorry.
Ms. Martinez, how about you?
No, I don't.
Ms. Bates, anything about the fact that this isn't in a courtroom that makes you think this trial might not be as important as if it were? Is that a no? I couldn't hear you.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Galluccio.
No, I don't.
How about Ms. Brown?
No, I don't.
Ms. Granada?
No, I don't.
Ms. Ramos?
I love it.
Perfect. I'm glad you feel that way. Thank you for your answer. Ms. Salinas?
No, I don't.
Ms. Hermiston?
No, I don't.
Okay, and I understand, Ms. Hermiston, you're a court reporter, correct?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, this is different than, I'm sure, the trials that you have participated in when you're in the courtroom and engaged in your profession. Is that fair?
Yes.
Have you had the opportunity to be a court reporter for any Zoom hearings or Zoom depositions?
No, I have not.
Okay, so obviously this is your first experience with a legal proceeding on the Zoom platform.
That's correct.
And is there anything about that this is different than what you've experienced that kind of feels strange to you, or are you willing to, or are you interested in how this process is going to play out?
No, it would be fine to be through Zoom.
Perfect. Ms. Arteaga, how about you?
No problem with it.
Dr. Sisson, how about you?
I don't have any issues, thank you.
Ms. Rinaldi?
No, it's actually exciting.
Ms. Purdue?
No issues.
Perfect. Also, because this is a trial that's on Zoom, I kind of want to know if anyone has or foresees any potential problems they might have with a trial that's being done on the internet. And what I mean by that is whether someone has problems with their internet, or whether they had difficulty connecting to Zoom today and required help, whether there's distractions that they are concerned about, that they would not, because of sitting wherever you guys are, might interfere with your ability to listen to the evidence and participate in this particular case. Ms. Smith, any issues that you foresee about participating in a trial on Zoom?
No, I don't.
Ms. Castaneda, how about you?
No, so far, no.
Ms. Sanchez?
No issues.
Ms. Martinez? Ms. Martinez?
No issues.
Perfect. Ms. Bates?
No issues.
Ms. Galuccio?
No issues.
Ms. Brown?
No issues.
Ms. Granada?
No issues.
Ms. Ramos, I saw your hand up. I saw Ms. Artiaga's hand up. Let's start with Ms. Ramos.
I cannot hear you.
Oh, still? Is that anyone else having problems hearing me?
Now I can.
Okay, I'm just gonna. I might look funny, but I'm gonna try and stay as close to the microphone as possible. Okay?
Thank you.
Can you interrupt you, counsel, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
If anybody has issues with hearing or video seeing, if you would please, as you did, raise your hand. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Brightman. You may resume.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Ramos, other than that you weren't able to hear me, any problems you foresee with being a juror on a Zoom platform trial?
No problems at all.
Okay, Ms. Salinas?
I will confess that I have a little bit of adult ADHD, so I might fidget.
Understood. And that's totally fine. And I didn't, thank you for sharing that. Obviously, it sounds like you aren't really concerned, though, of whether, you're going to be able to listen to the evidence and participate in this trial. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Ms. Hermiston, how about you? And any issues that you foresee about a Zoom trial?
No.
Ms. Artiaga, I know that you had indicated, and thank you for sharing that information on your questionnaire, that you were concerned about some child care issues.
Distractions, more like it.
Okay.
I have an 18-year-old at home. I have a husband who's retired. I'm here. I have a huge dog. Right now he left. So I'm sitting next to the door so I can open and close the door, and my son's still sleeping. So it's more of a where I'm positioned next to the router to make sure I have good internet. If there may be things going on around me, if I go into one of the bedrooms and close the door, maybe the internet wouldn't be as good. So that's the only concern I have. Would be the activity around me.
Sure. And I saw your dog in the camera, a beautiful dog.
Thanks.
Is there, and it sounds like, you are rightfully concerned that and have, questions as to whether or not you'll be able to, with the dog and obviously the energy that your child deservedly, you're going to expend there, whether you're going to be able to listen to the evidence and pay attention for the duration of this trial. Is that
correct?
Okay.
That would be the concern.
Dr. Sisson, anything with you?
No, I'm in a perfect location. No distractions whatsoever.
Perfect.
You can call me Miss Sisson, though. I didn't realize a psychologist would be called a doctor for some reason.
No worries. Ms. Bernali, how about you?
I'm fine, but you probably can hear my musical cuckoo clock going off, and I apologize for that. Otherwise, I'm fine.
Ms. Purdue, anything?
No.
All right. I mean, can we, other than the issues that Ms. Arteaga, you were kind enough to articulate, I mean, can we all agree, and I've been guilty of this myself, that I've been on a Zoom call that went a little too long and started, doing other work or kind of listening to it in the background. But obviously this is an important day, both for Mr. King and for the Galaxy Gravel folks. And we all agree to devote our full attention to the issues and the evidence that's going to be presented in this case, that even though it's going to be a short trial and we're going to do our best to engage you, I know that it's easy to, when information's coming to you through a screen and we're all floating heads, to become distracted. Ms. Smith, will you promise that you'll be able to pay attention for the entire duration of the trial, even though it's going to be a short one?
I promise.
Okay, and Ms. Castaneda, will you be able to do the same?
Sure.
Ms. Sanchez?
Yeah, sorry. Bearing that my kids don't kill each other.
I got my coffee.
Ms. Sanchez, same question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Bates?
Yes.
Ms. Galluccio?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Granada?
Yes.
Ms. Ramos?
With my coffee, yes.
Perfect.
Oh, God.
One of the benefits. I don't know if Judge Levinson allows people to eat and drink in his courtroom, but I guess for this we can.
Respectfully, Mr. Reitman, I don't have any problem with people bringing water in the courtroom, but I think at your home you can bring whatever, eat whatever you want. Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Ms. Salinas, the same question to you.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Hermiston?
Yes.
Ms. Arteaga?
Yes. As best I can, yes.
Understood. Ms. Sisson?
Yes.
Ms. Rinaldi?
Yes.
Ms. Purdue?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. I want to talk about some of the issues in this particular lawsuit and see if anyone has any feelings one way or the other about them. Is there anyone who, just hearing a little bit about this case that Judge Levinson was kind enough to read, is there anyone who has any strong feelings one way or the other about people who ride dirt bikes or other sort of off-road vehicles? Ms. Smith?
Oh, well, it depends where they ride it.
Okay. Obviously, the issue in this case, and that's a fair point. I was unaware of this, but there's difference between motorcycles and dirt bikes. Dirt bikes are, those that you don't need a license to drive, and you don't have to share the road with them. They're vehicles that are driven on dirt and designed to drive on gravel. Do you understand that, Ms. Smith? Have you?
Yes.
Okay. That being said, if the issues concern a dirt bike that's not being operated on the road, any sort of strong feelings about that?
No.
Okay. I saw Ms. Rinaldi, you raised your hand. Is that correct?
Right. I have two granddaughters that are or belong to the FTR, the Florida Trail Riders, and they both own dirt bikes. I don't know if that has any bearings. Livia's 17 and Gianna is 15, and they both have own dirt bikes. And Gianna has a KX100 Kawasaki, and Livia has a Yamaha 225. And they ride in several locations as guests now. They used to be members, but so there's several locations in Broward County, well, in Florida, North Florida, actually. So.
North Florida, not Broward, correct?
Correct, North Florida, right.
Have they ever been involved in any sort of incidents on their dirt bikes where anyone has suffered an injury?
Mr. Reitman, you do have 2 minutes. I just want to let you know.
Okay, I apologize.
No accidents, a few little minor mishaps, in the trail rides, but nothing serious.
Anything where they have initiated a lawsuit claiming that someone did not maintain the area adequately where they were riding their dirt bikes? Or,
No.
okay. Are there anything about that particular experience with your granddaughters that are going to affect you in this particular case?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. And be fair and impartial and judge the case just based on the evidence. Is that fair, Ms. Rinaldi?
Yes.
Ms. Castaneda, same question to you.
Go ahead.
Do you anything strong feelings about people who operate dirt bikes?
No, I have no problem with that.
Ms. Sanchez?
No, no problem.
Ms. Martinez?
I do not have any problem with it, but I do have two boys, so I've always been concerned about them liking any type of motorcycles.
Understood. And anything about that concern that might cause you to, evaluate before you've heard any evidence, cause you to at least start the plaintiffs off a little below where the defendants are, because you have this inherent concern about dirt bikes and dirt bike safety or motorcycles?
No.
Okay, and you can keep an open mind and listen to the evidence about listening to the facts of this case to see whether or not the dirt bike was being operated appropriately.
Yes.
Ms. Bates?
I actually had a family friend killed on a motocross accident.
I'm sorry to hear that. And thank you for sharing that information. Is that something you want to talk about outside the presence of everyone else?
No, it's fine.
Anything about that that's going to affect you in listening to the facts of this particular case?
No, I just think they're very dangerous because of that accident.
Understood. And at least in talking about an injury to someone who was riding one, is the plaintiff who was driving. Ms. Ramos, I see you were raising your hand. I'm gonna come right to you.
I feel like they're very dangerous. I don't like them, and you get all dirty. I don't like that. But I believe they're dangerous, and I don't like bikes. I don't like motorcycles. I don't like any of that.
Understood. With that personal belief, is that something that before you've heard any evidence that you're going to be able to separate that in evaluating the facts and circumstances of this particular case?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Mr. Raymond, I do think that we're at the end. If you could just wrap it up, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I apologize, Ms. Bates, that anyway, I want to thank you guys for your time and attention, and thank you for your honesty in speaking with me today. This is obviously an extremely important day for all of us, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reitman. Mr. Edelman, do you wish to address the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you. All right. Just getting situated here. Again, thank you all of you for being here today. Mr. Reitman covered a lot of ground during his questioning, but I still have some questions. As you know, I represent Kurt Frazier with Galaxy Gravel, and we really appreciate you all taking time out of your day to do this here. Now, I just have a few questions based on facts of this case and some of the questions you've already been asked. Ms. Arteaga, I couldn't help but notice your dog coming up on the screen, and like Mr. Reitman said, it's a beautiful dog. And you mentioned there's some distractions. Is there a chance that based on those distractions that you may miss evidence in this case?
That would be my concern.
Okay. Is there any way that you can take care of some of those distractions so that they would not interfere in this case in terms of you hearing the evidence?
The only way would be to lock myself in a room, and which is doable, but it's on the other side of the house, away from the router and internet connections and stuff. I'm not sure how well that would work. And if he knows I'm in there and my husband is out with the kids, he'll be, you know, scratching on the door, let me in. So that would be my only concern.
And I understand that. And
And
you
like
bring up a
now
very
he's
good,
quiet, you know, so he's right here next to me, quiet, sleeping. So you just never know.
you gave him the attention and now he's quiet. So
Right.
I understand. I heard somebody else, while Mr. Reitman was talking, there was a dog barking. Who was that?
It could have been my dogs.
Okay. Well, it sounded like they were a little smaller than Miss Artiaga's
Yes,
dog.
they're two little, one's a Pomeranian and the other one is half Pom, half Chihuahua.
All right. Do you have any concerns that, Miss Granata, that you may miss evidence because of the distraction of your dogs?
No, the situation's been taken care of, so I'm sure I'll be able to focus.
Well, that's great. Well, let me also go with something else that Ms. Artiaga said. She mentioned about internet connections. Is anybody having a problem today with their internet connection, with either not hearing certain parts of the questions or your screen freezing, anything like that? Ms. Bates.
Yes, my screen froze once already. My internet's kind of shoddy.
Mine too.
Ms. Purdue, I noticed that you mentioned. What about Miss Dr. Sisson, Miss Sisson?
I'm good.
You're good?
Great. Yes.
Crystal clear. Good.
Crystal clear.
Miss Rinaldi. Miss Rinaldi.
Everything's fine.
Okay.
No internet
Ramos.
problems.
No internet problem. That's good. That's what we want to hear. Miss Ramos.
I don't have internet problems, but I cannot hear you very well sometimes. It goes and like comes and goes.
Okay, you're having that as an issue throughout hearing this today?
I don't know if it's my computer, but speakers or something, but sometimes I cannot hear you.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I have to go like this.
Okay, are you hooked up to the to a wireless, or are you connected to a cable in your computer?
Wireless. I mean cable. I'm sorry.
Okay, Ms. Salinas, any issues?
No, no internet issues.
Mr. Edelman, may I interrupt you? I think
No.
your number 15 had their hand up. Just want to let you know.
Yes, I was just about to get to Miss Purdue. Can you tell me about the problem that you're having, Miss Purdue?
Okay, my screen did freeze on my computer, but I am using my phone, so I was still able to hear and see what was going on, but my computer, like, the session blacked out and I had to wait for it to come back on.
Yeah,
Oh, so did you miss a portion of the questioning then?
No, because I could still hear on my phone, I just couldn't see.
Understood. Well, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Brown.
Yes,
Are you having any issues with your internet today?
no issues.
Okay. Ms. Smith.
No issues.
Okay. Ms. Smith, you on an iPhone?
Yes.
Okay. I noticed that you're in a vertical position. Is there any way you can turn it to the side? Because I worry that you might not be able to see all of the evidence if you're not in a horizontal landscape view. That's better.
Okay.
That's better. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Hermison.
Yes.
Are you having a strong connection today with the internet?
Yes, it was. Did drop the screen, but I could still hear it, and then I clicked the button and it came back onto the visual. But otherwise, it's been fine.
Okay. What about Ms. Sanchez?
No issues whatsoever.
Ms. Castaneda?
No issues.
No issue. Ms. Granata, did we speak about this?
No, but I am in the room where my router is, so I have no issues.
Okay, that's great. And what about Ms. Martinez?
No internet issues today.
Okay. Ms. Galuccio?
No internet
Did I
issues.
say that right?
Yes, Galuccio, yes.
No internet issues.
No
and
internet.
Ms. Artiaga, we know about the issues with your dog and everything, but how is
No
your
issues.
internet? Is it,
No, yeah,
okay,
where I'm
strong?
at now,
Good.
strong, hear everything good.
Okay, that's great. All right, well, if everybody, the point is that we are doing this on a different format than we normally would, being in a courtroom. But it does not mean that this case is any less important. So my question to all of you is, anybody going to not take this case as seriously as if you were in a courtroom? You'd prefer to be in a courtroom. Well, that's great. Oh, wait, Ms. Salinas and Ms. Ramos. We'll go with Ms. Salinas first.
I think you miss the, I don't have the proper word, the grandeur of being in a courtroom, of actually seeing a judge sitting there and the attorneys, you know, arguing properly in front of you and making their case. I think, like I said, it's hard for me to keep my attention because I'm looking at you, but then I look at the plaintiff attorney to see how he's reacting to any questions you're asking me too. So that's my thing.
Okay, well, quite frankly, facial expressions are in some ways more visible through Zoom or other virtual formats than you even would be in the courtroom. But I guess the question I have is, while it may not be, you know, Broadway theater because you're not in the courtroom, are you going to be able to pay attention to it and give both sides the attention that the case deserves as if we were there?
I could do my best.
Do you have some doubt about that? It's okay. I mean, it's very important that we're all honest here today. This is the only chance that we have to speak with you personally. So, I mean, if you have some doubts about that, it's okay.
Well, you know, I can also see everyone else. So I can see fidgeting and things like that. That's all.
Oh. All right. Well, you're going to do your best to pay attention to the evidence, though?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Ramos, I'm not leaving you out. You were raising your hand for that question.
So even though I said before that I love to be at home and have my coffee, I feel the same. I was a juror before in a courtroom, so I like the courtroom better, but I know the circumstances, so this is okay, I guess, also. But I like the courtroom atmosphere better. I agree with Ms. Millie Salinas.
And I can certainly understand and appreciate that. The only concern that I would have would be that, given that we're not in the courtroom, that somehow you would think that this case would not be worth your undivided attention as opposed to if we were in the courtroom. Will it make a difference in terms of your perception?
No, not at all.
Well, thank you.
I will be fine.
Okay, was somebody else speaking? I wanted to make sure I don't want to leave anybody out. Okay. Now, you had heard before that the judge it said you need to have, you're going to be using your device to watch this trial, but you're not going to be able to have your phone on during the trial, just like you were in a courtroom. And the reason why is we need your undivided attention. We can't have you sending texts, emails, doing work. Is anybody going to have an issue abiding by that rule? Ms. Bates.
No.
Okay. Ms. Sisson.
I have no problem.
Okay. What about Ms. Rinaldi?
No problem whatsoever.
Ms. Salinas?
No, I silenced my phone, no problem.
That's great. Well, you're actually supposed to have it off. I just want to make sure, because again, we're watching you, but we don't want to have people looking down and getting a text from somebody sending you a meme or anything like that. Are you able to turn your phone off?
Yes, I can even just put it away.
Oh, that's fantastic. We really appreciate that. Ms. Brown?
I'm all good.
Okay, fantastic. Ms. Smith? Well, you're on.
Well, I'm using my phone. I cannot turn it off. I can put it on silence.
Mr. Edelman, if I may interrupt you, please, with respect. Everybody, I know we've been going for a while. If you could stand up and stretch a little bit, everybody. Okay. Ms. Castronetta, if you could stand up and stretch a little bit. Ms. Castronetta. Okay. Stand up and stretch a little bit. Thank you so much. Okay. I appreciate that. Okay.
Your Honor. Your Honor.
All right.
Your Honor.
Yes.
You asked everyone to stretch. I have significant injuries which prevent me from standing. Is that okay,
Mr.
Your
King,
Honor?
I meant the jurors. I apologize to you. Okay. Thank you so much. Mr. Edelman, you may resume. Mr. Castronetta. Everything okay over there? Good.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Edelman.
Okay. Now, I was talking with Ms. Smith. I know you're on your phone.
Yes.
Do you have the notifications on your phone turned off so that you're not going to have bleeps coming on during the trial?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you know how to do that?
Probably. I don't know.
Okay. If you need help with that, will you speak with Orlando, our clerk technical support director?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Miss Hermiston.
Yes.
Oh, Miss Ramos.
Notice has a hand up. Go ahead.
I cannot put it on silent. I have it on silence, but I cannot turn it off. I have an 85-year-old mom, and I mean, if she has an emergency or something, I wanted to see if she's calling me. So I have it on silence now.
Okay. If you were in the courtroom, you would have to have your phone off and away from you. Are you, being that you are, I believe, in your home, are you going to be able to do that during the course of this trial? You mentioned your 85-year-old mom. Is that going to be a distraction for you?
A little bit, even though she has a caregiver, but a lot of times they have problems and they call me and they need me. I mean, I understand, so I will let them know you cannot call me because I'm in the courtroom. Right now I'm in Zoom, so you cannot disturb, like I told them yesterday. So I'm hoping that they don't have any problems.
May I interrupt you for a second, Mr. Edelman?
Yes.
Ms. Ramos, why don't we do this? How about if you give the phone number for the clerk technical assistant, Mr. Garcia, and if they have an emergency, they can contact him, and then we can go through and let you know right away. Is that fair enough?
They only speak, is the clerk, does he speak Spanish?
He does.
Yes,
okay,
I do.
then I don't have any problem.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Edelman.
Perfect. That's perfect. Okay.
Can I ask everybody to step back a little bit so we can all see you? All right. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Edelman.
I believe I left off with Miss, Excuse me. I'm sorry, Judge.
There are approximately 2 minutes left, Mr. Edelman.
Okay. I want to get into a little bit about the incident. Now, you heard Mr. King speak up and say that he was injured. Does everyone understand that he was injured while using a dirt bike? And we are claiming that he was trespassing on the land and had been told that he should not be there. Does anybody believe?
Overruled.
Does anybody believe? Oh, I'm sorry.
You may proceed, counsel.
Okay. Does anybody believe that because Mr. King was injured, that somebody has to be responsible for those injuries? Okay. Is it possible, and by a show of hands, is it possible that Mr. King's injuries could be his own fault?
Yes.
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 Now, Mr. King, thank you. Mr. King is a young man, and we do feel bad that he was injured. But is anybody going to, if we prove that we are not responsible, is anybody going to feel bad, feel sympathy for Mr. King, and find for the plaintiff just because he suffered injuries? Ms. Bates.
I don't think so, no.
Ms. Sisson.
Not sympathetic. I wouldn't be sympathetic. Well, say that again, one more time. What?
I want to make sure that, you know, if we prove that we are not, if the plaintiff does not meet their burden, proving that we're negligent, because he was injured, are you going to somehow feel sympathy and fine for the plaintiff, even if we prove that we should not be held responsible for his injuries?
Oh gosh. I'm gonna say that's a tough one. I'm sorry. Gosh,
I just want.
I mean, yes, sympathetic towards somebody who's in pain, of course. But I hope I would use good judgment as to the outcome. I mean, how my thought, you know, my thought process on it. That I would use good judgment.
Do you have some doubt that you might be swayed by sympathy and not based on the facts of this case?
No, I'm not going to be swayed by sympathy.
Okay.
Okay. No, in that case, no, I would not be swayed by sympathy.
Let me interrupt you, Mr. Edelman. Ladies and gentlemen, I will instruct you later. You're not to base your decision on bias, prejudice, or sympathy. Bias, prejudice. Can everybody follow that instruction? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Edelman. If you could please finish up, I'd appreciate it, okay?
There's no problem, Your Honor. And based on what you hear in this case, to all of you ladies of the jury, if the plaintiff does not meet their burden of proof, are you willing to not give any compensation to Mr. King for his injuries, no matter how minor or severe they are? Is anybody not willing to do that?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. If the plaintiff, again, the defense, we do not have to meet the burden. The plaintiff has to prove their case by the greater weight of the evidence. If they do not prove their case, are you willing to not provide any compensation for Mr. King, no matter how minor or severe his injuries are?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
All right, Mr.
What about Ms. Sanchez? I'm sorry, I was just waiting on Ms. Sanchez.
No worries.
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody not able to follow that law? Thank you so much for your time. No further questions.
All right, thank you very much, counsel. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time, we are going to go through the selection process. We do not do that in your presence. However, there may be a need for us to talk to you individually to clarify some of the answers that you gave us. So what I'm going to ask you to do is our clerk, technical assistant, Mr. Garcia, will put you, as we did earlier, in the jury room break room during the selection process. So again, I want to emphasize, you're not to discuss the case among yourselves at all or with anyone else. And you can talk about anything else, but do not talk about the case. And then when we are finished with the selection, or if we need to further question you, we'll then bring you in from the break room. And again, on behalf of the attorneys and the litigants, we want to thank you very much for your participation in this process. And we'll be with you in just a few minutes. Okay? If you could,
Okay.
thank you, everybody. Anybody have any questions before we send you in there?
No, how it'll be? Can we take a bathroom break?
No, you're not allowed to use the bathroom. Of course you can take a bathroom. Okay. And, you know, and should you have difficulty, we can always provide catheter-like devices for you.
Oh,
Send them to the jury room. Operator might appreciate
Yes, Your Honor.
That was a moment of levity, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's move them back. Take a wait for Ms. Bates to go, Orlando. There you go. So let the record reflect that all the jurors are out of the courtroom, out of the presence. Is the plaintiff ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor, and with the court's permission, Mr. Harwin is going to deal with the selection, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. And I apologize for having to limit you, but I think that was the agreed upon amount of time that we had to proceed with. Okay.
And I appreciate the court's indulgence, even though I went over. So thank you.
Yeah, both of you were a little bit over, but I think you both were very efficient in your time, and we definitely appreciate that. All right. So the first 6 are the presumptive jurors. Each of you get 3 strikes. For a counsel for the plaintiff, I'm going to ask you if the jury is acceptable or not. And yes, and then yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Harwood.
No, go ahead, Your Honor. Sorry.
So, and then if the jury is acceptable, fine. If not, we'll go back once more time, and then that'll be the jury. But there is obviously there's back strikes. That's the law. Okay. All right. First, counsel for the plaintiff, is the panel acceptable?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Who do you wish to strike?
We move to strike for cause juror number 1, Your Honor. I believe she testified that she had a family friend that was killed in a motorcycle, and that she said in her words that they are dangerous, which I think would prevent her from being fair and impartial in a case such as this one.
Any objection from the defense?
Well, I didn't feel that she said it would make her unfair. She just said that she thought they were dangerous. I didn't think there was anything there that prohibited her from being fair and impartial.
He did say that, and just to remind everybody, the standard is whether there's a reasonable doubt as to whether she can be fair and impartial. Would you like me to bring her in to further clarify the information, Mr. Harwin?
No, Your Honor. I think what she said suffices to prove that she has some difficulty being fair and impartial.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Over the defense objection, I'm going to find that I have a reasonable doubt as to whether she can be fair and impartial. So she'll be struck for cause. Next juror is number 7, Ms. Smith. Is the panel acceptable to the defendant?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Tell me, who do you wish to strike?
Actually, you know what, Your Honor, I take it back. It is acceptable.
Thank you. Counsel for the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, who do you wish to strike?
Your Honor, we would move to strike juror 4 for cause. And my problem is that she had difficulty hearing both Mr. Reitman and Mr. Edelman. And I have concerns about her, the abilities of whatever format she's using or whatever device she is using. In addition, she also said that they were dangerous and that she's got an 85-year-old mom. And I think cumulatively, you look at all of those issues, and I have serious concerns about her being able to be fair and impartial and serve on this jury.
What is your response, Mr. Edelman?
I agree.
All right. Based upon agreement of counsel, juror number 4 will be struck for cause. All right. So our next juror now is number 8, Ms. Hermiston. Counsel for the plaintiff, is the panel acceptable?
Yes, Your Honor. Counsel for the plaintiff accepts the panel.
Counsel for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Plaintiff?
Yeah, no backstrikes, Your Honor. We accept.
Okay, and defendant?
We're going to backstrike number 3.
All right.
Ms. Rinaldi.
That is your first strike. Rinaldi is struck by the defendant. Our next juror now is juror number 9. Is the panel acceptable to the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the panel acceptable to the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. One more time. The counsel for the defense, is the panel now acceptable? Is this the panel you wish to decide the case?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Who do you wish to strike?
Karen Sisson.
Can you please give me what number that is?
Number 2.
Number 2 is struck by the, I think it's doctor assistant, although she doesn't like to be referred by that, by the defense.
I was confused what to call her, but I just figured.
That is your second strike.
First and last.
That
Yes,
is your
Your
second strike, okay? So our next juror is now number 10. Is the panel acceptable to the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
Plaintiff?
Panel's acceptable, Your Honor.
All right, counsel for the defense, is the panel acceptable?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so the panel will be as follows. It will be juror number 5, juror number 6, juror number 7, juror number 8, and juror number 9. Is that correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who am I missing? And juror number 10. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 is our jury. Okay, do we want an alternate?
It's up to Your Honor.
Yes.
I mean, I think
right.
it's probably prudent.
Okay, so we'll each get, you get 1 strike for the alternate. Is number 11 acceptable? Adele acceptable as an alternate for the plaintiff?
Your Honor, I had some concern about the dogs barking, but I think she could probably handle that, so the plaintiff will accept.
Very well. How about you, Mr. Edelman?
No, Your Honor.
You wish to strike her?
I'd like to exercise my last strike.
Well, it's 1 strike. Yeah, okay. So she's struck by the defendant. Is the next one, number 12, acceptable to the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor. We would move for cause on juror number 12. I believe she testified that she had 2 boys and that she was concerned about them, in her words, liking bikes. And I think that would be very difficult for her to be fair and impartial.
Your response, Mr. Edelman?
I don't remember hearing anything like that. I thought that she did not show any bias or inability to be fair and impartial on this panel.
I would agree with defense, Mr. Harwin. The record doesn't sort of support that. The fact that she doesn't, are you wanting to strike her for cause, or you want to exercise a peremptory?
Well, it sounds like Your Honor is not inclined to do that, so I'll exercise a peremptory.
Yeah, I don't think the record supports a cause strike, but you can exercise a peremptory. So number 13, is number 13 problematic for anybody for cause?
No, Your Honor, on counsel for the plaintiff.
Defense?
Fine for the defense.
All right, so number 13 will be our alternate. So Orlando, do you have the jury then? It's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and 13 is the alternate. Now, what I'd like to do is bring in the jurors so that they can be sworn. Then I'll let and then we'll bring the rest of them and let them go. Is that fair enough?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. King, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Is there an opportunity for me to discuss with my lawyer before the jury is selected? I know I'm a minor, not an attorney here, but I have some procedural concerns I want to raise with my counsel before the jury is sworn in here.
You're very well versed in the law for a teenager. I must say I'm impressed. So anyway, what say you, Mr. Harwin, Mr. Reitman?
Your Honor, if you want, we can, instead of having anyone move, we can just call our client. Of course, we have his phone number, and we can just have a conversation with him. If everyone would just mute, would that suffice, Your Honor?
Yes, that'll be fine. That'll be fine. That's acceptable to everybody? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Actually going to call my client as well.
Okay, very well. I also want to compliment Ms. Castronova on your excellent argument.
Yeah, so Mr. Harwin, I think
but that's okay. I'm just making light of that,
Mr. Harwin, before the jury is sworn in, I would like for you.
Counsel.
Judge, the plaintiff is.
Yeah, we can hear you, and that's my fault. We don't want to hear you, so if you could mute yourself, I'd appreciate it. Okay, young Mr. King. Thank you. How are you? Good.
Your Honor, I've spoken with my client. Everything is fine. We're ready to proceed.
Is that correct, Mr. King? Everything's okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, let's bring them in. First, bring in the jurors.
Okay, Your Honor.
We have the form to swear them in. Can I have that? Here's the other one, but actually, I only wanted the few, Orlando, the actual juror, but that's okay. All right, I want to let everybody hear.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to thank everybody for their participation in this process. Some of you have been selected. The fact that if you've not been selected in no way impugns your integrity, it means for this particular case, you're probably not the best match, okay? So I will tell you the jury is number 5, Millie. Where's number 5? Raise your hand. Okay, you're our first juror. Tanya, number 6. Thank you. Number 7, where's number 7? Ms. Smith. Okay. Number 8, Ms. Hermiston. Number 9, where's number 9?
Over here.
Lisa, yes. Number 10, Jennifer, where are you?
Right here.
Good. And our alternate, or our last juror will be number 13, Paula. Where's Paula?
I'm here.
Okay, great. So as to the rest of you, you will not be able to, you will not participate in this particular case, but we want to thank you very much for your time and your effort in this case, and you are excused from jury duty. You're good for at least another year. So with that in mind, with the thanks of the lawyers and the litigants, we're going to sign you off, okay? But the rest of you remain. Thank you again for your service. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
As to the remaining, as to those that have been selected, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you shall well and truly try the issue now joined and a true verdict rendered according to the law and evidence?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, you've been selected and sworn as a jury in this case. We'll be with you in just a few minutes. This case is not going to take long. It'll be a day or two. But I think that at least you'll be able to watch the trial or participate in the trial from the comfort of your home, which is one of the main advantages here. I'll go through the rules shortly, but thank you again for your participation. At this juncture, Orlando, Mr. Garcia will put you in the break room, and then we will bring you back to begin the trial. Okay? All right, Orlando, I think that'll conclude our jury selection process.
All right.